This is the Acer Swift X, the perfect hybrid laptop. What does that even mean? Well, it bridges the gap between a less portable gaming laptop and a low-performing thin and light device. You see, this is a pretty new evolving class of laptops. While being portable, it aims to provide good battery life, a stylish design, and a discrete GPU. That's right, a discrete GPU. This is exactly what creators are looking for, and they could be an awesome option for students as well that also want to do a little bit of gaming when they get home. So, is it any good? Well, I'm going to start off with the price. It's $1,200 US for the base model, and that gets you a Core i7 1260p with 4 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores for a total of 16 threads, 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 memory at 4,800 megahertz, half a terabyte of storage, an RTX 3050, and a 14-inch 16:10 display. For an extra $100, you can double the storage size and the GPU to an RTX 3050 Ti, and this is a sample that we have over here. That, my friends, is a really, really good deal, especially for those specs. In fact, Amazon has some awesome deals for the Swift X, so I'll leave a link down below if you're interested in picking one up. Now, from the outside, the X is all about style while maintaining a thin and light design. This Olga green finish is absolutely stunning, and it's a very unique color that I've seen on a laptop. The whole chassis is made out of aluminum and plastic materials, and it's put together really well. There is a little bit of flexing on the top lid, but it doesn't get too worrying. I will say that when you compare the build quality of this to the Nitro series, it's a day and night difference. The hinge is very strong, so you will notice a lot of wobbling around the display area, but that also makes it really challenging to open the laptop with one hand. Check this out. Look at that. So you'll definitely need to use 2 hands to open this thing up. Also, I do need to mention that this exterior finish picks up a lot of fingerprints, so you will need to wipe it down every now and then. As for the Z height, it is pretty respectable, coming in at 0.7 inches or 17.9 millimeters. It's somewhere between the Nitro 5 and the Flow X13. Remember, those devices have 3050 and 3050 Ti configs. The weight isn't too bad, coming in at around 3 pounds, so you shouldn't have any issues fitting this thing inside your backpack and lugging it around between classes. The power cable is fairly compact as well. It charges the laptop via USB Type-C and it supports fast charge. The cable is also super long, which I'm sure a lot of students would appreciate. You know what else I would appreciate? You guys taking the time to watch today's video sponsor.
The all-new H7? What's not to like? It's like a perfectly tuned guitar or a sharpened knife, keeping the user happy and your hardware safe. The best part is the redesigned interior that is full of potential with 360 route support at the top and front, including 140mm mounts, a totally new cable management system and cable bar with of course vertical GPU support with this Gen 4 PCIe riser kit. The 3K styles are made to suit your needs, with the Flow being my favorite. I think this is the way to full tower your next build. Check out the new H7 when your heart desires.
Okay, so the interior space is pretty standard on the Swift X. By default, the secondary keys are set as primary functions, but you can reverse that through the BIOS. The power button also doubles as a fingerprint reader, and it's really accurate. I had no issues logging into the desktop, so kudos to Acer for including this feature. The keys themselves have good travel and feedback. If you're a student or just anyone spending a lot of time typing away, this will get the job done. The trackpad is good. Acer is using ocean glass materials that's more eco-friendly, and it's surprisingly really smooth to navigate around with. It does have some cursor acceleration, and it's not quite as precise as an actual glass surface, but for this price point, it is a win. In fact, it's actually much better than the cheap stuff that you get with the Nitro 5. Port setup on the Swift X is pretty generous considering it's a somewhat thin and light device. So on the left-hand side, you get 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI 2.1, a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port, and on the right-hand side, you get a Kensington lock, another Type A 3.2 Gen 1 port, and an audio jack. The built-in DAC is mostly bass heavy. It does overpower the trebles just by a little bit, but I still had a pretty good time listening with it on my EPOS H6 Pros. This is what the webcam looks like on the Acer Swift X. Now, they are using a 1080p sensor, which is really surprising considering the price point. So that's definitely a bonus. So as you can see, the image is more detailed. The field of view is also respectable, and the exposure is pretty good. Also, the microphone sounds impressive, guys. It is using a 2-dimensional microphone system, so it picks up my vocals really well, and the noise cancellation is really good too. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. Now, the speakers are placed at the bottom, and all I can say is to lower your expectations, guys, because it's a weak output, even at 100% volume level. The trebles are somewhat detailed, but the bass response is very minimal. I would actually gravitate towards an external sound system or a good pair of headphones if you're crazy about audio. The display on the Swift X is a huge upgrade over the previous generation. For starters, you now get a 14-inch 2.2K IPS panel. So that results in a 16:10 aspect ratio, and I love that extra screen real estate to fill with content. The color reproduction is also really good as it covers 100% sRGB, 79% Adobe RGB, and 82% P3. So if you want to get some light video or photo work done on this machine, this should fit the bill. The only downside is that it doesn't get too bright. Our sample was only able to sustain a peak brightness level of 325 nits. So when you're trying to view stuff outdoors, it could get a little challenging. But hey, at least it's a matte screen, so it cuts a majority of the reflections. The other thing to keep note of is the refresh rate. It's only 60 Hz, guys, so gaming on it isn't necessarily going to be the best experience compared to what you get on the Nitro 5. Under the hood, you'll notice that the CPU and GPU are cooled by a single fan. The memory is soldered onto the PCB, and the primary NVMe SSD is right over here. The drive speeds are not too bad. We got around 2.5 gigabytes per second on read and around 2 gigabytes per second on write. I do appreciate the extra M.2 storage expansion. All right, so Acer's included 3 performance modes on the Swift X. So let's check out how the CPU behaves. Basically, the i7 1260p operates at about 35 watts in both performance and default modes, which is above Intel's baseline spec, while running at perfectly reasonable frequencies and temperatures. The interesting thing here is that both modes are essentially the same with hardly any variance. Quiet mode, meanwhile, sticks to lower levels right across the board, but that's pretty much expected since it's focused on running cool and silently. The weird thing here is that quiet mode actually gets the best GPU performance. Yeah, it's a big head scratcher for me, but if I had to guess, I'd say the RTX 3050 Ti is detecting less heat being produced by the 1260p processor and is able to boost further than in other modes that have the CPU running at higher power levels. With all that being said, in default mode, it runs at NVIDIA's bare minimum specs, while performance mode is a bit above that. The nice thing about all of this is that the Swift X is one of the quietest laptops we've tested in a while. It's actually the first device that we've seen with a discrete GPU that sticks to under 50 decibels in its highest performance mode. That's good news for anyone who values silence. There is one small trade-off though, and that's surface temperatures. When it's under a gaming workload, some parts of the keyboard hit the 50-degree mark. Luckily, those aren't in the primary typing or gaming zones, but still, the Swift X does get a bit toasty when you use it under certain tasks. So all in all, there doesn't seem to be all that many sacrifices in terms of temperatures, noise, or even clock speeds here. But remember, because of the Swift X's overall size, Acer actually had to cut down the battery capacity to just 59 watt-hours, which is just a bit bigger than something like the Flow Z13 from Asus that I looked at a few months ago. And what does that mean? Well, nothing all that great. Remember, the Intel Core i7 1260p is supposed to be a more efficient processor than the 8 series, especially at lower loads. But even here, against higher powered gaming laptops, the Swift only gets middle of the pack results. I mean, sure, more than 11 hours is still pretty good, but I was hoping for more, I guess. But under a heavier load, the lower wattage processor does allow for a bit more time away from a plug than some other devices here, but there isn't anything groundbreaking here either. All right, so I guess that lays a bit of foundation, but I have to level with you guys here. I said at the beginning of this video that the Swift X lies in a bit of a gray area between entry-level gaming laptops and thin and light devices that don't even have a discrete GPU. So in terms of raw horsepower, it will be underpowered versus true gaming devices that have 8 series processors and higher wattage GPUs. But it'll also destroy a lot of the ultrabook class machines as well. With this being the first of these hybrid performance laptops I'm looking at, I'm going to focus on the lower end laptops that are reviewed with discrete GPUs because it's pretty hard to nail down true competitors for the Swift X right now. But luckily over the next few months, we're going to see a lot more. So I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm actually pretty happy with these results, all things considered, because in a lot of the tests, the Swift X is a lot more competitive than I first gave it credit for. With its combination of efficient and performance cores, Alder Lake really does have some muscles it can flex, even with a lower voltage processor like the 1260p. Remember, this thing's going up against CPUs that chuck down more power on laptops that cost a heck of a lot more too. And with its Xe graphics as a backstop for additional encoding and decoding tasks, it can actually pull some work as a light editing station too. And for students that need some GPU acceleration, this is a pretty big deal. For gaming, well, this thing has an RTX 3050 Ti running at just 35 watts, so you can't expect miracles. But what the Swift X does is give you playable frame rates at 1080p with ultra high details enabled in most games and performance that's right in line with other laptops that have the same GPU. Sure, because of CPU variances, sometimes it wins by a bit, sometimes it loses by a bit. But overall, I really can't find anything to complain about it when you consider how portable Acer made this thing. So who is the Swift X catered towards? I think this would be an excellent option for students because, remember, this isn't a gaming laptop or a thin light device. It's that perfect hybrid between those two platforms because it's got an entry-level GPU and a lower power CPU. That discrete GPU could come in clutch to help accelerate certain apps that might be required for your courses, and that low-powered CPU will certainly yield you better battery life. You also get a stylish design, great keyboard, display, and trackpad. Again, this is an evolving class of laptops, and I think we're going to see a lot of them hitting the markets very soon. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out. On that note, thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to take away everything that you needed to know about the Acer Swift X. Let us know what you guys think about it in the comments. I'm Eber with Canucks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Oh, and spend responsibly.